Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 22 of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. I'm kind of amazed that we have already recorded 22 episodes. Thank you so much for joining me, for subscribing and following, for connecting with me on social media, for sending me your questions. I'm so enjoying building up this community with you, and I would love to know topics that are filling needs for you and what is really connecting with you so that I can create more content that brings hope and life, is modeling future joy and dreaming and filling up your heart. So this is episode 2 of my interview with Laura Lazechko. I told you guys last week that Laura and I met at the gym at the same place that I met Micah, and she also met her husband Tad there. We had a couple really fun double dates. I don't know, we might have even worked out and checked each other out in the mirrors at the gym from time to time. We had lots of conversations on yoga mats and on stability balls in front of mirrors while we were stretching. Those are some really sweet memories. Tad and Laura got married 3 months after Micah and I did. It was a beautiful outdoor wedding in the mountains. They've been married for 12 years now. Tad and Laura have 4 children, 10, 8, 6, and 4, 3 girls and a boy. Laura was talking to us last week when we ended a really beautiful, authentic conversation, talking about how having a child with special needs affected her marriage and the balance and really what that looks like to adjust your expectations. Laura, tell us more. You said something so powerful last week about having eyes to see and just releasing a sense of entitlement that because you've already suffered with the loss of your dad in childhood and the brain cancer, that life was supposed to be okay. And I know for me, I really struggled with my relationship with God in this unspoken, and some of it is kind of America. I mean, I look at it and I see it where it's like, I deserve happiness. I deserve favor. I deserve support. I deserve health. I deserve all of these things that are just not promised to us, right? So tell me what has happened in your relationship with the Lord and kind of the process that you've gone with him in coming to acceptance and choosing gratitude in light of the fact that you did feel that entitlement in him working in you.
I don't know if I would say honestly that I've arrived at acceptance in the realm that, like, for example, I have a very beautiful plaque from Hobby Lobby on Lanie's wall with the I am fearfully and wonderfully made verse from Psalms. And I bought it intentionally, not because I could fully swallow it, honestly, but to have it there to make me see it every single day. I have wrestled with God a lot through this experience with how a good father could create someone that would live such a, from my eyes, less than full life. But as you said, it feels somewhat American. People are struggling and suffering all around the world, not because they were born with a condition, just because their world is very different than ours.
Right.
But I think God has not abandoned us. He, while sometimes on the day-to-day and the messy, when I get tired, I don't see him through everything, but he has met me in different ways throughout this journey. One example that I always think back to, when Lanie was maybe 14 months old, which in a typical kid, that would be a rambunctious toddler.
On the move.
A very
walking,
busy body.
Probably. Yeah.
We attended the funeral of some friends whose son had just died in a hiking accident. He was a young man, and he was their only child. And the celebration of life for him was at Cottonwood Creek Park, which is obviously a child's dream. But Lanie was in her stroller, and we walked up to the pavilion where everyone was gathered, and this grieving mother came out and I think acknowledged us very quickly, but basically just unbuckled Lanie from her stroller and picked her up and spent the rest of that afternoon just holding my little girl. And I was sitting with my other kids at a picnic table while they ate, and I just felt the Lord speak to my heart, and he said, "Beloved, look at this. I have made her for such a time as this." If she was a typical 15-month-old, it wouldn't have been an option. But because she has low muscle tone and all this other blabbery diagnosis stuff, that meant that she was just a warm 15-pound child that would be held without squirming and fussing. And she was a balm to that grieving mama's heart. And those Kairos moments where I feel God's presence so clearly shine down on us, I have to cling to them, because the day-to-day of diapers or unkind words from others or new elements of diagnosis, or it could be a very depressing life if that's how I wanted to look at it. But I have to believe that God is who he says he is, and that one day redemption and restoration and all the things that I miss and grieve that I won't get to experience with my little girl this side of heaven will come around. I feel like I lost my dad as a child, and so God was always so real to me. Heaven was real because someone I loved was there. But having Lanie and caring for the intense level of her physical needs on a daily, moment-by-moment basis has tethered my heart to heaven in a way even that the death of my father didn't. It's a daily reminder that this is not all. This world is not the end.
That is so beautiful. I think having the eternal perspective changes everything.
Yeah.
In Revelation, when it says he promises to wipe every tear from our eyes, when people struggle with the character of God and his relationship in their life, I think there's a pain point of disconnect there that he has promised. And he said he cannot be unfaithful to us. It's literally impossible for him to go back on his word or to deny his nature. And it's so easy to be like, if God loved me, he wouldn't let me hurt like this. And I so deeply resonate with that concept. And in some of my darkest moments, those were the things that I held to was, I am who God says I am. He loves me, and he is who he says he is.
Yeah.
And in the darkest days, that's all I had. But that is a foundation that cannot be shaken. And that if he is who he says he is, he will do what he says he will do. He will redeem all that is broken. He will bring justice for all of the lost, and things like Micah's murder and things that are outside of our control that we ourselves can't fix. And then at the end of the day, I've had Jesus say to me, Rachael, even when you don't have answers, you have me. And in my interview with Michelle Couchot, who's the 3-time cancer survivor and has just lost and lost and lost, she said that is the greatest healing, is that we do not lose our faith. And you are such a beautiful living testimony of that, Laura. And this would be really silly, but I kind of want to put one of your Christmas letters in the show notes, because you guys, this girl is one of the most hilarious, real pragmatic women you will ever meet. And I think what's amazing is to get to hear her heart on such an intimate level today, because usually when we're together, we're doing, we're on task, we maybe are processing, but there's a whole lot of mom life on either side of the time when we're together. And we don't take the time to sit and explore one another's hearts in these places. And so I feel very blessed that this is a treasure to get to sit with my friend who is so highly functional and can multitask the heck out of her schedule and meets so many differing needs. And so I want people to hear a little bit of that practical piece of you. Give us like a day in the life of Laura and the Lazechko family and what it looks like to care for Lanie and do all the things.
Lanie is 6, and so she has done kindergarten twice. She redshirted her first year with an August birthday. She was very young. So the school was okay with it, and I decided the best thing would be for her to repeat kindergarten. And I opted not to do preschool with her. Honestly, the thought of putting such a vulnerable child. So Lanie's 6 now, but she's still nonverbal. She can't move. She is happy as all get out. She has the joy of the Lord, but she can't do anything to take care of herself. And so the idea of putting her in the care of someone else who didn't know her was very daunting to me.
Yes.
So between her very rigorous therapy schedule and my own fears and anxieties about that, I didn't do preschool. So kindergarten was our first round of me giving her over to someone and walking out the door. But the schools, honestly, they do such a great job with these kiddos. She's in public school with her siblings, and most of the day is in a gen ed classroom, a general education kindergarten classroom with a para with her, doing all the same things as her peers. She takes breaks when, she needs a diaper change or if she's overwhelmed, but the class doesn't kick her out for making funny noises or her wheelchair not fitting. They make it work. They raise the desk up on books so that her wheelchair can roll underneath or whatever. The schools here, I feel like, do such a wonderful job with her. And she really likes it. She's such a social butterfly. She really seems to like school. So I'm so thankful for that. Especially looking big picture down the road, she will live with us forever. And so this little break of 6 to 18 is kind of a gift that she gets to go be somewhere else. I get a few hours where I'm not the one that has to be on top of it, knowing when she ate last and how much she ate and when does she need to poop next and all of the things. I can kind of shuffle some of that off to someone else. That's been a really nice break.
They're doing the therapies with her at school. And then what time in your day do you pick her up? And, you have 3 typical kids. So do they go to the same school? What does kind of that flow look like?
So most days she goes at the same times. Drop off and pick up is the same as her siblings. Today, for example, she has hippotherapy, which is therapy on top of a horse, which she loves, in the middle of the day. So I run some errands and go pick her up, and we run to therapy and then run back to pick up the other kids when they're done at 3:15. I've had to learn to find the right balance between how much. So the professionals in the special needs world want you to do everything. They want you to do all the therapies, all the treatments. I have had to learn with 3 typical kids, what's the right balance? While this may be helpful for Lanie, if it kills the soul of our family, it's not worth the cost. And I've learned this, the hard way. We've been in some programs that were too much, and it left me feeling deflated and depleted. It left Lanie so tired I didn't hear her laugh for weeks. It left my other kids constantly being shuffled between other caregivers or having to say no, they couldn't do things. So it's been a work in progress to find the right balance of how much therapy can we do where it's helpful and still fits well with the things that are important to our family, which is eating dinner together and early bedtimes and all the things that help the Lazechkos be healthy and have good rhythms and routine. And it's not exactly the amount that other families could handle or that the professionals recommend, but we have had to find ways to make it work with our whole family. God gave us all of our kids, not just Lanie. So I've had to learn when to say no and how much we can realistically do and do well and not just overwhelm ourselves.
That was a wisdom nugget, guys. If you're listening, you need to take that to heart and think about what in your decision making is motivated by love and what is motivated by fear. I think there's a lot of fear in having a child with special needs and the unknown. And like, if I don't do 8 hours of therapy 5 days a week, am I not giving my child the best opportunity for their highest level of achievement? And that would be a motivating factor to stretch your family to the breaking point instead of kind of stepping back and saying, okay, whose needs are not getting met? What needs more attention? And Maybe it's not realistic for us to do 8 hours of therapy 5 days a week. And I know that the special needs community out there is going to know that that's not an exaggeration. Laura and I have some mutual friends with children who also have special needs. And there have been seasons when they had their child in that much or more therapy. And that is a huge strain on a family, just for what you're saying, the regular day-to-day stuff, and everybody else still has needs. They didn't stop having needs because Lanie has therapy. Will you talk a little bit more about that community that we have? I just see the hand of God bringing together in that season of MOPS when we all met. There were several moms very close to each other that had children with severe special needs, and you all have bonded and formed the most beautiful friendship of support, even though none of your children have the same diagnosis. So what does that community look like, and how have you helped each other get to this point and just shown incredible resilience? All of your families, you guys blow me away.
Yeah, it's interesting. The phrase "it takes a village to raise a child" is so true. And choosing your tribe with other people that are on a similar journey has become so vital. When a family that maybe doesn't know us super well or is familiar with special needs invites us into something, sometimes we have to decline or bring our own chair or feeding things. And that works. It's okay. But it is such a gift to walk into someone else's home who gets it, and they have it all ready for you.
Wow.
You know, we families with a child with special needs, we all have the same level of intensity and needs, but it does feel like when I have needed help, those are the people I turn to because they get it and they're not overwhelmed.
Not intimidated.
Yes. We share a lot of the same doctors and therapies, and sometimes I've even been able to do some of that stuff collectively. Speech therapy works better in a group because if you're communicating,
I love that.
The more the better. So it has been such a gift to get to know really well and intimately other families who are on a similar journey. Something about being lonely. I think the devil speaks to us when we are isolated, whether it's real or in our minds.
And pain is isolating. We feel like the only person in the room with that struggle.
Yes. So to get to know other families really well who are on a similar journey, it dispels that isolation. It dispels those doors for the devil to whisper, what are you even doing? This is going to be terrible. You have no idea. Those words don't sink into a heart that is full because you're surrounded by people who get it.
And they hold up your arms when you're discouraged.
Yeah.
And you hold up their arms when they had a hard doctor's appointment, or they're feeling discouraged, or they're grieving the loss of a typical kid dream. And you guys do that for each other, and you do it so beautifully. And I will just speak the highest praise of you and our friends, because one of the fears that I had going into parenting was the potential of a child with special needs. And could I actually rise to the occasion? It was a fear in my heart. And I watched you all navigate this incredibly hard road and not make it, you didn't shine it up. You didn't protect us from it. You didn't try to make it any prettier or more palatable than it was. And watching you struggle, watching you do the work, and it just gave me so much courage that if something like that ever came my way, I would be okay. And I don't know if you know that you are modeling hope and resilience and strength and courage to people like me and people you've never even met. And the people who are going to hear this story and be like, this woman is real. She's just told us she does not have it all together. Her marriage struggles. She doesn't meet all the needs perfectly. She doesn't get to work out as much as she used to or would like to in light of all of the pressures and the things that she carries. This is not the happy, spit-shined story about, special needs. This is the real gritty life story. And you are giving people hope moment by moment by modeling the courage to get up every morning and put one foot in front of the other, even when it's really hard. You said something earlier that one of the things that's discouraging to you is when people say unkind words. What are some classic things that people say that are hurtful, and can you give them new language or ways to interact with you or ask questions about Lanie or have the conversation that isn't hurtful?
Yeah, have tried to be very gracious to people in their speech. I, unlike you, never entertained the possibility of having a child with disabilities. The thought never crossed my mind. Whether that's a gift or not, I don't know. But
one of my babysitters growing up had a son with cerebral palsy.
yes.
And so I spent a significant amount of time with him. So that probably impacted me
yes,
thinking about that.
yes. So I think that's exactly right. Your level of exposure primes your mind to think or not think about those things. So, and actually along that line, level of exposure, I think is the biggest thing that has been hurtful to me over these years from other people. It's not the words that they choose, although sometimes kinder words could be chosen, but it is just when people ignore Lanie or ignore us, that has been the hardest thing. When we went for kindergarten orientation, her red shirt year, I, pushed her little wheelchair in there with all the other kindergartners and their parents. We were meeting the teacher and seeing the classroom. And every single one of those kids stared and then whispered in their parents' ear. I could see all of this play out. And I thought, what good, obedient children. That's exactly what I've taught my typical kids to do. Do not address the 500-pound lady in the grocery store. Why is she so fat?
Right.
That's not helpful. We will talk about it in the car. So they all behaved probably exactly as they had been primed or taught to. But not a single parent then came up and said, hi, we're so-and-so. What's your name? I'm sure none of it was malintent. They were uncomfortable. They didn't know how to say anything without it being hurtful. So they just ignored us. And it was so hurtful. I went home and cried that afternoon because in my head I was like, again, this is my first frame of reference for leaving her somewhere else. And so I thought, this is how it's going to be. She's going to be in the corner, everyone ignoring her. Which, interestingly enough, as soon as the parents were out of the picture and the kindergartners were the only one in the classroom, they loved Lanie. I called her the golden calf of kindergarten because she came home with so much garbage crafts and notes in her bag from her peers. They kept my recycle bin full. But they loved her. They just their parents didn't know. How do we interact with someone that isn't going to talk back or that has braces on her legs or is in this wheelchair or all these things? So I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give to other parents is don't be afraid of people that look different. Your kids are going to be curious. They are curious with things that are different. But pretending like the difference doesn't exist isn't helpful.
Yeah.
Come say hi. And even though Lanie couldn't have said hi back, I would have said, hi, this is Lanie.
Yeah.
And she's going to be in your kindergarten and she won't say hi back, but she loves friends. You can pat her hand or give her a hug or a high five or smile at her. She loves you even though she can't say it with her mouth.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that we still have this sense of awkwardness of like, they're not going to be able to follow social norms in response to me. So how do I even start? And for us as adults, as we're, learning and growing and wanting to support friends and people in our community who have, people with special needs, that it's okay to just say hello. It's okay to make eye contact and smile. It's okay to introduce yourself. If that person is unable to respond to you in a way that feels socially comfortable, just kind of enter into that and own that, And I think I remember a man who worked out very regularly at the YMCA. And so every day I would speak to him, and sometimes he would acknowledge me and sometimes he wouldn't. And, just kind of becoming okay with that it was okay to offer myself in whatever way I could be available without having expectations in return. And then that scared me, right? Like, oh, what are they going to do? Like, well, what are they going to do? Nothing bad is going to happen to you, And I think even if, let's say you see a family and they're strangers in the park and it's not an obvious, like, get to know you situation, like the first day of kindergarten, make eye contact, smile, say hello. I think that just like you're talking about the loneliness and the isolation, we can help bridge that gap with families without special needs as typical people, typical families. It feels weird because nobody's really normal. We're all, figuring our way out through this painful process called life. But I love that you gave us some practical tools in how to do that. And I know that you are literally a wealth of practical, supportive tools and tips. And so we might have to come back on here and have you answer some Q&A for families who are looking for special needs support, because you have really owned your story and your work, and it has been hard, and you haven't backed away from the hard. And that is so beautifully visible in your life. And you guys shine through as you're packing 4 kids into the minivan and, navigating Lanie's wheelchair and getting her buckled in and hustling to your next place, and still showing the love of Jesus in your eyes and the light that shines out of you. Laura, thank you so much for being here today. I can't just share my appreciation enough with you.
You're welcome, Rachel. It's been a pleasure.
Girl, you're incredible. I'm so glad for our friendship, and hopefully I can bring you back on here for another interview.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.